Hey there! In today's video I'm going to be doing a lithium battery upgrade in our camper trailer. Let's get to it. So when we got our camper trailer, the intent was always to put lithium batteries in it. Now out of the factory, the Goldfields campers comes with AGM batteries. They're, I think, 120 or maybe even 130 odd atom power batteries, so it's a dual battery system in this still as well. But it already does come with a lithium compatible AC-DC charger and a DC-DC charger, so upgrade should be relatively simple. Now going to lithium, one of the biggest benefits other than weight, so these are quite a bit lighter than what an AGM battery is the usable capacity in a lithium battery is quite a bit higher than in an AGM. So in an AGM you might get 50 to 60% of the capacity that you've got in terms of your amp hours. In terms of a lithium battery, anywhere from 80 to 90% usable. So it means that we're going from say 130 amps of power to 220 amps of usable power in our battery system. And that's a really big benefit when you might be away for a few days and you end up having a couple of overcast days where you really don't put that much power into the camper trailer with your solar blankets, for example. We had this when we went away last. We ended up having to hook the car up to the camper trailer for about an hour so we could put roughly 40 amps of power out of the car into the camper to make sure that we could get through the night. Now one of the other benefits of going to lithium is that you don't necessarily have the same amount of voltage sag as what you do with an AGM. Now the reason why we've gone for Kings is that despite it being a cheaper brand, the internals of these batteries when they've been pulled apart and had a look at have actually been pretty well built. They've got prismatic cells in them. They seem to be a relatively high quality prismatic cell, and the BMS system and the wiring isn't too bad in them either. I've also got a Victron SmartShunt so I can monitor the utilization of the batteries and also the power coming in and out, given that the little voltmeter on the backside of the camper trailer really only shows voltage, and that's not a good indication of how full or how depleted your batteries are. Now I've managed to pick these up for $275 each on sale, which is pretty good. I think they usually retail for somewhere around $380, $390. But the prices do fluctuate and I managed to get these for a really good price. So let's get to it. The first step was to turn off the power and to begin dismantling the battery box. For those who aren't aware, caravans and camper trailers over the last few years have required externally vented and sealed battery boxes for safety purposes. And as soon as everything was undone, I could remove the batteries, and oh boy were they heavy. Everyone loves a good peel as well. last but not least is the SmartShunt. There's a few different variants of the Victron SmartShunt. There's the 300 amp one, and this is essentially an indoor one, so you can't use this under your engine bay. But there's also a 500 amp variant of this one, plus also I think it's an IP65 variant as well, where it can be a little bit exposed to weather, so in your engine bay. But given that this is going to be inside the camper all the time, it didn't need to be the IP65 one, just the standard one. I then began to locate and mark out the spot that I wanted to attach the Victron SmartShunt. If you're enjoying these videos that we're putting out, it would be great if you could like and subscribe. It helps a lot and encourages us to keep creating more. I then began to make up the lid that sat between the SmartShunt and the battery system. The SmartShunt works by sitting between the battery's negative terminal and the rest of the system, or in this case my terminal block. Power flowing in from chargers or out to things like lights and fridges goes through the shunt, so it can measure exactly what's going in and out of the battery. And after not too long, it was time to begin the reassembly. So once you've installed the Victron SmartShunt into the camper trailer and connected it to your batteries, you actually need to set it up and configure it so it's aware of the capacity of your batteries and some of the different characteristics. So in this next part of the video, I'm going to take you through how I went through and set it up. Now, please don't take these settings to be gospel. I've actually made a few adjustments since recording this video to make sure that the state of charge and everything records correctly, and when the battery is actually sitting at 100%, it is sitting at 100%. When you first open the Victron app, you'll see your SmartShunt that you can connect to, and you'll need to enter in a PIN code. And that will then pair it to your phone. And for most SmartShunts, they'll usually have a couple of pending updates that you'll need to run, and that can take a few minutes, but as soon as you're done, we'll then be able to start configuring it. So one of the first settings that you'll set is the battery capacity. So given that we have 220 amp batteries, we'll enter in 240 amps. We also now need to set our charged voltage, and this will vary depending on your battery. I was starting with 14.4, given that that's what the specification said its max charge value was. And then we'll set some of our other different settings like discharge floor, our tail current, as well as our charge duration setting or detection time. Now some of these settings I did put the specs of my battery into ChatGPT for to get, but each of those will vary depending on who's made your battery and what your specifications are. Now our SoC is our state of charge, and we can set alarms based on percentages, but we can also set low and high voltage alarms as well. Because although lithium batteries don't vary a lot, if they go over voltage, it could indicate that your BMS will shut the battery down. Same thing with going below a certain voltage, and we want to try and be alerted to that before we actually have a battery turned off from either being over voltage or under voltage. And now that all of our settings are in, we can now try and feed some current into our batteries, and then we can also see what happens when we discharge current from our batteries. And that brings us to the end of this video. Now it's been a little bit too cold and wet over the past few weeks to be able to take the camper out and give it a test run, but hoping that we can do that soon. Now, while we haven't taken it out for a test run, I've been able to give the batteries a go at home and see how they perform, and they seem to charge up well, they seem to discharge well with a bit of load on them. But I'll keep you in the loop with how they do go when we do finally get a chance to take the camper out and give them a good run.